The fire is already lit, not for warmth, not for cooking, for you. The flames crackle slowly, patiently, like they know you'll be here a while. Your wrists are tied with rope stiff from old smoke and dried fear. It bites into your skin every time you move, so you stop moving. Crowd isn't angry. That's the worst part. Angry people doubt themselves. Calm people don't. They stand there, relaxed, certain, convinced this is necessary. Someone murmurs a prayer. Someone else spits into the dirt. A child watches closely, because this is educational. This is how the world teaches lessons. You haven't screamed yet. You're still trying to explain. You're still pointing out that you helped them, that you healed their children, that you stopped the bleeding when no one else could. That was your first mistake. Because the moment you knew how to heal, the moment you learned which plants stopped bleeding and which ones stopped breathing, the moment you touched knowledge you weren't supposed to touch, you stopped being a woman. You became a threat. Because this isn't just one moment. This is a pattern. These are the worst times in human history to be born as a woman. Ancient world, before 3000 BCE, you're born female. That single fact decides most of your life before you even open your eyes. No tutorial, no explanation, no consent, just immediate difficulty mode. Your value is negotiable, your pain is expected, your body is public property. Your survival depends almost entirely on whether the men around you feel merciful today. Across most of human history, there is one unspoken rule. You are dangerous by default. Your body bleeds without injury. Your body creates life from nothing. That's not biology. That's suspicious. Early societies didn't ask how your body worked. They asked why it was doing witchcraft. Menstruation, cursed. Childbirth, unclean. Infertility, punishment. Too fertile, also suspicious. There is no version where you win. You learn early that survival means being quiet. If you speak too much, you're disobedient. If you speak too little, you're cold. If you're beautiful, you tempt men into sin. If you aren't, you're useless. And if you know things, that's unforgivable, because knowledge was never meant to belong to you, especially medical knowledge. Early medieval period. For most of history, real medicine didn't happen in universities or stone buildings with symbols carved above the door. It happened in kitchens, in fields, in dim rooms that smelled like herbs and blood. It was done by women, midwives, herbalists, bone setters, healers, women who knew which root eased labor, which leaf stopped infection, which mixture could end a pregnancy before it ended a life. They learned from other women, quietly, carefully, person to person, generation to generation. No books, no permission, and that terrified everyone, because a woman who can heal doesn't need approval. So societies did what societies always do when fear shows up uninvited. They turned medicine into heresy. Europe, roughly 1400 to 1700. In medieval Europe, if you were a woman and you knew medicine, you weren't a doctor, you were a witch. It didn't matter that you saved children. It didn't matter that you delivered half the village. It didn't matter that people came to you first when sickness hit. The second something went wrong, a crop failure, a stillbirth, a fever that didn't go away, you became the explanation, and explanations need punishment. So they tested you. They tied stones to your body and threw you into water. If you drowned, congratulations. You were innocent. If you floated, you were guilty, also executed. Science. They shaved your head, searching for witch marks. They tortured confessions out of you because pain apparently reveals truth. They burned you alive because fire was considered cleansing, and people watched. Not monsters, regular people, friends, sometimes family, because fear spreads fast and cruelty spreads faster. But Europe wasn't special. India, practiced for centuries, recorded into the 1800s. In ancient India, if your husband died, that was tragic for you, because now came sati, a ritual where you were expected to climb onto his funeral pyre and burn alive with him, voluntarily, symbolically, spiritually. If you refused, society helped you reconsider. Survive your husband and you're cursed. Die with him and you're devoted. Either way, your life ends when his does. China, roughly 10th century to early 20th century. In China, if you were born a girl, congratulations, you inherited foot binding. Your feet were broken, folded, and wrapped so tightly they never grew properly. Why? Because pain was attractive, because mobility was dangerous, because a woman who couldn't run, couldn't leave. Every step hurt. That was the point. Various regions, spanning centuries into the modern era. In parts of Africa and the Middle East, girlhood came with a blade. Female genital mutilation wasn't about health or hygiene. It was about control, removing pleasure, removing autonomy, removing the idea that your body belonged to you. Survival didn't mean safety. It just meant you lived long enough to endure more. And if you were unlucky enough to be born during famine, war or plague, you were disposable. 14th century, Black Death. During the Black Death, women were blamed for spreading disease, accused of poisoning wells, accused of seducing demons, accused of surviving when others didn't. Survival itself became suspicious. Wars across centuries. In war, you weren't a civilian, you were loot. Armies didn't just conquer land, they conquered bodies. Rape wasn't a crime, and it was a tactic, a reward, a warning. You learned how to disappear, you learned how to stay silent, you learned how to endure. But the most dangerous thing you could ever become wasn't loud, it was educated. 18th to 19th centuries, men took over midwifery, universities banned women, medical texts stopped mentioning female healers entirely. Knowledge women built over centuries was taken, renamed, and taught without them. You weren't pioneers anymore, you were folklore. Or villains. The same hands that once delivered life were now tied for execution, and the irony? Medicine got worse. Maternal mortality skyrocketed when men replaced midwives, but facts didn't matter. Control did. A woman with knowledge threatens hierarchy, so the system made examples. Burn her, drown her, bury her alive, teach the rest to stay silent, and most did, because staying alive required obedience. You learned early that pain was expected, that suffering was virtuous, that resistance was sinful, and the worst part, this wasn't ancient history. This pattern repeats. Again and again and again. Different centuries, same logic. Now remember the fire, the rope, the calm faces. You're standing there because you knew too much, because you helped too many people, because you crossed an invisible line drawn by fear and superstition. We're not talking about survival, we're talking about defiance and the women who refused to disappear.